Welcome to C-Suite at the Open ESG edition. I'm Caroline Hunter, Head of Company Services based out of Toronto. Joining us today is Norie Campbell, Group Head and General Counsel at TD Group. Norie, welcome.
Hi, Caroline. Thanks so much for having me.
I thought we would start by focusing on the growing investor interest in ESG topics and how that's driving demand for ESG investment products, including ESG-focused indices. TD is the only North American bank listed in the Dow Jones Sustainability World Index. Can you discuss some of the sustainability criteria required to be included and how inclusion maps to TD's corporate strategy?
Well, thanks, Caroline. And it's such an exciting time to be the executive sponsor of our ESG strategy on our senior team. And through the years, I've been at TD for 20 years now. I've had a lot of good fortune to lead many of the aspects that are included under the broad ESG banner, whether that's diversity and inclusion, employee engagement and upskilling, board governance. But for the last couple of years, we've had a tremendous focus on driving ESG into our strategy and really embedding it in all aspects of TD's business, our governance, our risk management. So where does it all start? Well, it really starts at setting the strategy of the bank. We always do so believing banking is a calling. We have a purpose. Our purpose is to enrich the lives of our customers, our colleagues, and our communities. And this is the driving force of our ESG work, including our climate action plan. So for TD, ESG is an all-bank effort to serve all our stakeholders. It influences how we run the bank, to what you were saying, the types of products and funds that we offer our customers, the advice and financing we deliver to clients. We look at it in our daily work needed to build a diverse and more inclusive workplace and society. And of course, the way we approach risk management. And while we have lots to be proud of, we still have a lot of work ahead. We know we can do more. So one of the things that we are proud of, you mentioned, and that is TD being listed on the prestigious Dow Jones Sustainability World Index for the 7th year in a row. And we were the only North American bank this year to be listed. And as you know, the World Index reflects the top 10 most sustainable companies in our industry around the globe. So a couple of points on your question on DJSI. For sure, the questionnaire is extensive. You know, there's lots of detailed questions. There's 24 categories of ESG performance. They range from corporate governance, code of conduct, sustainable finance, tax, climate strategy, human capital development. So the extensive nature, I have to say that really makes sense to me. At TD, we're working hard to embed ESG across our policies, our procedures, our products, our services. I say it like this: we're making sure that ESG is not just the icing, it's baked right into the bank, right across the a whole organization. So to me, this comprehensive nature of the DJSI strategy survey really reflects the reality of the expectations of stakeholders. So that makes me see the DJSI work as a great tool in our toolkit. I always spend a lot of time with the team really understanding what the new questions are from DJSI and why. It really is a great window into the evolving expectations and topics of interest under that very broad banner of ESG. And because the survey is asking all banks the same questions, it can provide a great opportunity to benchmark our own performance and make sure we continue to lead. So the last point I would make is just a huge shout out to our ESG team. You know, I've said ESG is an all bank effort, and this team does an amazing job of pulling together all of what we're doing across the bank, working with our most senior leaders on their most important messages, understanding the perspectives of our subject matter experts, and it culminates in a report that we hope is telling the TD story of commitment and of striving.
Well, you mentioned the climate action plan, so I want to dig into that a little bit because TD has set some bold targets And that in that climate action plan, including financing the transition to the low carbon economy. And the target's $100 billion in low carbon lending, financing, and asset management by 2030. So can you give us an overview of your climate action plan, perhaps outlining where you are today and how you plan on achieving that target?
Yes, well, thanks for the question, Carolyn. And this really builds on a long history at the bank. We've really been working on environmental leadership for a number of years. As long ago as in 1990, we launched the TD Friends of the Environment Foundation. It's provided more than $102 million worth of funding to environmentally focused organizations, about 28,500 projects across Canada. And then more than a decade ago, we were the first North American bank to become carbon neutral. And since then, we've been really helping to drive the growth in the green, social, and sustainability bond markets. We've deployed lots of money towards research and innovation. And then you've noted our commitment 3 years ago, where we were the first Canadian bank to set a clear financial target in support of the transition to a low carbon economy. And I'm pleased to report we're more than halfway there in our commitment. So in November, we wanted to do more, and that's when we announced our Global Climate Action Plan, really building on this foundation of environmental leadership. So I wanted to just give you a few of the highlights. So first, and probably very, very significantly, we set a target to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions associated with both our operations and our financed emissions by 2050. Aligned to the associated principles of the Paris Agreement, and we were the first Canadian bank to do so. I talked about embedding ESG into our business, and this is going on across the bank. And so I want to give you an example of a great new team that we have in TD Securities. It's called the TD Sustainable Finance and Corporate Transitions Group. And this group is really dedicated to how do we get to our clients the right advisory services that they need to think through this transition, and then importantly, transition and sustainability focused financing globally. We know this is an area where reporting and transparency really, really matters. So TD joined the Partnership for Carbon Accounting Financials. You may hear that referred to as PCAF. Mm-hmm. This group is focused on the methodologies globally that financial institutions need to drive carbon accounting. And very importantly, we know funding really matters. So you talked already about our $100 billion commitment. It's towards low carbon lending, financing, asset management. And I would also mention a new sustainability bond. So that we issued this in 2020. It was a US $500 million bond, and this is looking not just at environmental but also at social funding. So I think the thing that I would focus on to end is the power of human ingenuity. We're really focused on this journey to net zero. Is going to require new innovations, it's going to require new strategies, it's going to require the broad adoption of new technologies, and some of those have not even yet been invented. And I'm really proud of the great Canadian companies that are already ready, willing, and in many cases bringing their ideas already to the table for this transition. So we are continually challenging ourselves at TD. How can we collaborate on solutions more, work with our clients more to get this transition right? Such an important and dynamic space. And so we're really excited about our role in this transition.
It really is. Thank you. You mentioned earlier about baking ESG into your culture, and I want to talk about your 2020 report. So I noticed that TD incorporated additional ESG metrics into the executive compensation framework for the senior executive team. Can you give us a sense of what those metrics are and how you went about choosing them?
So you asked about how ESG will be taken into account in comp. And that's not new. For decades at TD, actually, we have taken into account both the measurement of colleague engagement and also customer satisfaction and how everyone across the bank is compensated. What's new in 2021, the big change, is actually adding some additional and distinct metrics into how the senior executive team will be evaluated. The way I kind of think about it, the board has set quite an ambitious plan for management. They have high expectations for us. And so we in the management team are quite excited to meet these. And our compensation as a senior team will reflect how we do. So these new ESG metrics are right at the heart of the ESG strategy. They include objectives related to climate change, to diversity and inclusion, and to employee engagement.
Norie, this has been incredibly informative. I really love how you talked about setting the tone from the top and, highlighting for us some of TD's ESG commitments and initiatives. And from a stakeholder's perspective, I hope that they've gained some insight into your thriving ESG culture. Thank you for joining us at C-Suite at the Open, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Well, Carolyn, it's just been a pleasure to be here with you. I have to say at TD, as a headquartered Canadian company, we just see a terrific opportunity for Canada to be a global leader on how a responsible transition can occur in a resource-rich economy. And when I think about all the great companies that you have listed on the TMX and how they are so ready, willing, and already hard at work to show the world what a responsible transition can look like, I just have to tell you how excited we are at TD to be part of that solution.